What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I got a couple important developments for you today regarding, blah, 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 everything going on. So let's just dive right into it. The first bit that I want to discuss comes, this is a Bleacher Report app, and it's NFLPA board votes unanimously to play no preseason games this year amid COVID-19. So, we talked about in one of my last videos about how the players had just voted. The NFLPA opened it up to their entire membership, which is the players, and they all voted in favor of playing no games at all. And that was obviously coming after the league had said that they were thinking about maybe dropping 2 of the preseason games, games 1 and 4. But now it looks as if the NFLPA Board of Representatives is also voting to suspend all preseason games. Now, from my understanding, when I was going through the CBA, there's kind of like 3 levels to the CBA. There's like the executives, then there's the, Board of Representatives, and then there's, there's like the Board of Representatives, which is like the executives, and then there's like the player reps, and then there's the players themselves. So this, I believe, is as high up in the, NFLPA as it goes, if I'm not mistaken. So the top guys. Anyway, let's get to the details, though. The Board of Representatives of the NFL Players Association voted unanimously Thursday to recommend the league cancels the entire preseason amid the coronavirus pandemic, according to Dan Graziano of ESPN. The union has discussed potential adjustments to training camp that will allow the players to prepare for Week 1 without exhibition games, as noted by Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. And he says, and this is a tweet from Tom Pelissero, with the NFLPA still opposed to preseason games, one possible camp schedule the union has discussed: 3 days of medical and equipment, which I think I actually might have read this in another video too, 21 days of strength and conditioning, 10 days of unpadded practice, and 14 days of practice, 10 max, 8 padded. Then it'd be straight into Week 1. The NFL would need to approve any changes, although the league reportedly has already decided to shorten the preseason from the usual 4 games to just 2. Per Kevin Seifert of ESPN, the NFL effectively canceled Week 1 and Week 4 of the preseason schedule. So that is, pretty much already in effect. So that's, it looks like we're definitively going to miss the 1st and 4th games, but it looks like now the players and the full NFLPA is pushing to just cancel all of them. And then they're going to, restructure training camp, which is looking to commence towards the end of this month. And, I don't think any of those measures are going, I don't think any measures that they take are going to help. I think if they go with training camp, you guys already know this, then they're going to have outbreaks, but we'll see what happens. Graziano previously reported Thursday's 2-hour call included a discussion of various restrictions amid COVID-19 and reported the sentiment among some players is, why are we playing at all if it's this unsafe? And that's true. And it's looking, with the trajectory that we're on, that it's going to remain unsafe. And just continue to run wild and rampant throughout the country throughout the entirety of the 2020 year, the calendar year, which obviously is a little bit different than, at the very least, if not longer, if not even carry over into next year, which is certainly very possible. We could end up hitting 2021 and still be very much in the middle of this pandemic. And so, we'll have to wait and see. There's obviously still a lot to develop, and that's still some months away. And obviously the NFL year, the NFL calendar is a bit different, because it plays towards the end or throughout the second half of the calendar year and then leaks over into the next year. But we could still be in the middle, Super Bowl time could be around, and we could still be in the middle of the pandemic. We could even end up seeing another virtual draft next year. I don't know how all that would work at that point. That's way off into the future, so there's still a lot that needs to happen before we get there. Anyway, the coronavirus has led to over 128,000 deaths in the United States so far, while there were over 50,000 new cases Wednesday, the highest since the start of the pandemic, per the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. And so, real quick on that, we are actually over, as of the most recent numbers, over 130,000 Americans dead, and every day we seem to be posting new records in, coronavirus cases. And a lot of the experts believe that we are actually over 100,000 new cases a day in unofficial numbers, right? But that the official numbers could get up to 100,000 before long. And that's definitely absolutely possible. And look, I mean, it's spreading through all the sports too. Just another quick side note. Major League Soccer, Major League Baseball, they're all hitting it. One of the Major League Baseball's, I just saw a report today, another player from Major League Baseball, tested positive and apparently isn't feeling great. So, we wish him the best, but this thing kills a lot of people. And it's going to kill people. It's going to kill people. So it's going to continue killing people, especially as it mutates and gets stronger and worse, right? So, and especially the less we have a vaccine and stuff for it. So it's bad. It's bad. Anyway, the NFL still plans to begin on time in September, while players are expected to report to training camp on July 28th as initially scheduled, which is 24 days from now. To me, look, at the end of the day, 24 days from now, I don't see any way that they could feasibly convene for training camp and do it safely. There's just no way. There's no way. Whatever measures they put in place are not going to be adequate enough. And, the so-called bubbles that, the MLB and so on and so forth have put into place, NASCAR drivers have gotten it and are dropping out of, upcoming races. It's hitting every sport because it's hitting everywhere. Sports are not going to be exempt. Even if they try bubbles, the bubbles are getting burst. The NBA is going to try a second bubble. Okay, but there are also, I've seen reports of several NBA players just being like, yeah, we're not going to play this season. Okay, well, I mean, they can keep pushing, but they're not going to be able to do it safely. And I guarantee you, if they open training camps on July 28th, hear me now, quote me later, mark my words. If they open training camps on July 28th, as they plan to, and they bring in these guys, I guarantee you're going to see outbreaks, and I get across every single team. And I guarantee you, even though there already are some across NFL teams that are happening, but I guarantee you there will be deaths. There will be fatalities. It's going to be unavoidable, especially considering the fact that our hospitals are being swamped right now, again, because of the massive flood in new cases and hospitalizations, etc. So, and look, man, there will be staffing members, coaching staff members that will end up dying because of it, or even players. And then they're going to end up having to shut it down eventually anyway. Anyway, the shortened preseason could lead to fewer players being involved, with ESPN's Adam Schefter reporting it could be as few as 75 participants per team instead of the usual 90. We obviously already talked about that. See my previous videos if you want to know how I feel. I don't like it. Removing preseason games completely would make it even more difficult to determine a final roster, while transitioning directly to regular season games could be a challenge for all players. However, it would also limit the risk of exposure to the coronavirus for another month, with reduced contact between players and zero travel for team personnel. But it wouldn't do enough. Guaranteed. If they open training camp, it's going to be a fucking disaster. Way more of a disaster than it currently already is. But speaking of training camp, again, there is a little bit more news. So this is going to be coming from NFL Network, or my NFL app is where the article is. But this is about the NFL sending out, protocols for the upcoming training camp that is supposed to start in 24 days. So NFL sends COVID-19 protocols for camp preseason to clubs. COVID-19 protocols for 2020 training camp and preseason, including the handling of individuals exposed to someone who has tested positive for the novel coronavirus, were sent by the NFL to clubs on Friday night, NFL Network's Tom Pelissero reported Saturday morning. This dude's getting hella work, bro. The NFL last night sent to clubs COVID-19 protocols for 2020 training camp and preseason, including this detailed breakdown for handling individuals exposed to someone who tested positive. So this is in a tweet, and there's like this little fucking Venn diagram thing, whatever. I'm going to just, I'm going to read this through you. I retweeted it, so it's on my Twitter or whatever too, but I'm going to kind of give you, it's like a little map here. So let's see, mitigation and treatment rubric for exposures to COVID-19 positive individual. Close contact exposure to symptomatic or COVID-19 positive individual. They will be given a PCR virus test as soon as possible and isolate until results available. If virus test is negative and close contact remains asymptomatic, close contact may return to club facility subject to the following: increased symptom monitoring, daily PCR virus testing, days 1 through 8, regular testing. So look, I mean, they have a bunch of things in place, right? And so, you know, they have, if you test positive, then individual has no symptoms, an individual has symptoms, you know, and there are specifics that go into it. So like no symptoms, no return unless and until 10 days have passed since initial positive test, or 5 days have passed since initial positive test and 2 consecutive negative PCR virus tests separated by 24 hours, and return approved by a club physician after consultation with ICS. So look, I mean, to be fair, a lot of these things are good and important, and obviously you would want to have in there. But again, if it gets in there, they're not going to be able to stop it from just fucking spreading like crazy. And this thing is going to be, it's going to get out of control. And there's nothing that they are going to do to be able to stop this or you know, wrangle it. It's just going to get out of control. If there has been, and again, then like, you know, in the middle of the season, if guys are getting it and you got to fucking bench guys, okay, they are going to possibly expand their practice squads from, you know, maybe to 16 or 20 guys from 10. But then you're just going to be cycling in new bodies and putting their lives at risk. And then it's just, it's going to throw schemes off. It's just, it causes far too many more additional problems that are not necessary at all. Anyway, let's wrap up with this though and get to the rest of these details. If there has been close contact exposure to a symptomatic or COVID-19 positive individual, a PCR virus test is needed as soon as possible with isolation until results are available. Should the test come back negative and then close contact remains asymptomatic, a return to the club facility is permitted following increased system monitoring and regular testing going forward. If the virus test is positive, there are differing protocols if an individual is symptomatic or has no symptoms, though each requires substantial time away from the team facility and medical approval to return. Other aspects pointed out by Pelissero are that NFLPA protocols say teams may not require players to stay in team hotel during training camp. I mean, again, if you're not, it's not, so you're just going to let them roam free, go home, visit people, like, okay, well, okay. In addition, enforcement and discipline are part of the protocols, including that should a club employee or other member of the club staff knowingly and materially fail to follow these protocols, they will be subject to discipline. So, in other words, we're not really going to enforce it and, like, make you stay there. Make you, right? But then if you don't stay there because we don't make you stay there and you get it and blah, 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 then you're in trouble. Okay, well, I mean, I agree that there is certainly a level of culpability for the person who then decides to go out into the world and, you know, risk it all and so on and so forth and then possibly bring it back. But again, I mean, that's just another one of those bullshit fucking ways for the people at top who control all this to begin with to then just, you know, disseminate the responsibility to the people lower than them. And, you know, they're going to keep pushing it down as low as it can possibly be if they have the power, right? So, like, you know, the NFL pushes it to the owners, and then the owners push it down to their GMs and to their fucking coaching staffs. And then the only other fucking place it can land is on lower level staff members or, you know, the players, because then they have They don't have the power to push it to anybody else. There really isn't even anybody else to push it to anyway. But so it's just more of that because they don't want to fucking take. And then additionally though, discipline. What kind of discipline? Guarantee there will be fines. So then that means they will be taking money from those people. Of course. Another major change will be myriad alterations to media access, including no in-person interviews until further notice. The NFLPA membership voted on a conference call earlier this week in favor of not playing any preseason games ahead of the 2020 season. But like, bro, I mean, again, this thing is only expected to get worse and worse and worse from now until then. So, and then if they open training camp and they have outbreaks, do they really think... Anyway, I mean... Look, again, to be fair, there still is a lot that has to play out and so on and so forth. So, look, we're going to figure it out, man. And we're going to see. We're going to see what the NFL does. I've given you my, evaluation and analysis of the situation. I don't think what they're doing is right. I think they should shut down the entire season and not fucking take the risk with people's lives, especially because the only reason why they're doing it is to pad their own pockets and ensure that they can continue raking millions of dollars because that's all they give a shit about. And, we'll have to see how they go. We'll have to see how they react to the data and the information. They say that they're listening to medical experts, but their actions seem to prove otherwise. And so we'll see what happens. Again, we are 24 days out from training camp starting according to these, rules. And, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, there will be further developments on what they decide to do with the preseason, and I will keep you guys informed of that. And so, obviously, aside from, any additional decisions made by the people in power, blah, 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 and official updates, it's just going to be a bit of a waiting game to, to get there and to find out, then how they react. Anyway, so with that, I'm going to get up out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective in my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.